If you've been looking for the best overall palette that will keep your paints wet, whether they are acrylic or oil, you've come to the right place. So today I'm going to talk about the Stay Wet palette. And hi, I'm Allie Mack. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. And today we're going to get into why this is the best palette in my opinion. So first things first, I'm going to show you how to put it together. These are the components that go inside. First, you will have a sponge. I'm gonna take this apart right now. And the sponge, I have a bunch of paint on here right now. You can see this yellow sponge. That is what comes in this package. And now this is the 12 by 16. This is the largest one that they have. And I did buy their pack that comes with an extra sponge. So this actually came with 2 sponges. And you have to rinse out this yellow sponge. That's the first thing you do, is you rinse out this yellow sponge that goes at the bottom of this palette. And this is if you're using it for a acrylic paint. And then the next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna take the paper, which is this, what's on top right here, and you are going to soak this in hot water for 15 minutes. Now I have a bunch in here. There's like 30 sheets and I'm only on my second sheet. But to be fair, I totally wrecked my last sponge and palette. I left it in there way too long, which it stays for a long time, but it definitely does have a shelf life. As you see, I already have a bunch of paint mixed up in here. I would not go more than like a week without at least adding a little bit more water to the sponge. So once you have those 2 things soaked, the next thing you're gonna do is put the soaked sponge on the bottom. You don't want it sopping wet, just holding water, put it at the bottom. And then this sheet is also gonna be damp and you're gonna put this on top. Then you are ready to go. You can put whatever acrylic paint you want on here. Right now I have golden fluid acrylics, and also that is mixed with some gloss gel medium, just the regular consistency. And then you have this lid. So this is what is going to keep it wet. And I've heard people say it is a Stay Wet palette or a Stay Wet palette. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you know which one is supposed to be. Now mine, I'm gonna be honest, mine doesn't even shut perfectly all the way because I have some acrylic paint like stuck in the corners of a couple of parts. But honestly, even just setting the lid on top keeps this wet. The other thing you can do with this palette is you can use it for oil paint. So, and I've seen another artist do it. I think it's Brooke Cormier that does it. And I'm not sure what size she has, but she has a piece of glass that she just put at the bottom. Now this is super easy. I would say getting a piece of glass from Home Depot is better than getting like a cheap frame kind of glass. And you definitely don't want it to be plexiglass either, because when you are using paint and you're using a glass palette, the plexiglass can come off. So like this is just a palette that I made. I got the glass really cheap from Home Depot. I got some corrugated board on the back and then duct taped it. It is super, super easy. I'm actually probably gonna make a larger one of this because what I tend to do is use this as the sort of home base where all my paint colors go. But because I like to have the colors that I have decided for my color story for my painting in there, but I do a lot of the mixing on here. And then what I do to keep it wet on here, because it does dry pretty quickly, is I mist it with some water now and again. And that seems to do the trick. And then going back to the oil paint, the other thing I'd say is if you're only going to use this for oil paint will stay wet for a lot longer than acrylic paint anyway. So this is traditionally used for acrylic painting, I would say. But you can, and I used to do this a long time ago, you can put your paint in the freezer, and because it's an oil, it will keep it from drying out. But this is an extra step. So putting your oil paint in here on glass is also something that you can do. So I did get this one on Amazon. It was, I think, $40 to $45. This was the largest one. It was the bundle pack that came with the extra sponge and 30 sheets of paper. You don't have to get the biggest one that they offer. I personally like to have a lot of room because I do mix a lot of colors, but any of these are great. The other thing I wanted to mention is if you are using oil paint and you have your glass inside of the Stay Wet palette, or you have it even just on a regular palette here, the best way to clean this off is to use one of these scraper tools. I know if you see my other videos, you see me using this scraper tool. You just spray your palette with alcohol, rubbing alcohol. I'd get the highest level, like 91%. You spray it, whether it's acrylic or oil, and you scrape it off. Now, you cannot do that if you were painting directly from here on these sheets. So it does stay wet for a long time. You can see it does get sort of dyed. As long as you kept the paint wet, as long as you kept the paint wet, you can reuse this sheet over and over and over again, especially if you have a layout of where your colors are going and you're just kind of remixing the same stuff in the same places. You can also wash them out. So if you want to change out your color story for your next painting, you want to use different stuff. Maybe you're only going to use like earth tones or something, and there's no point in, you know, mixing from all of these sort of standard colors. You can go to the sink and just rinse it off and reuse it. If you take care of your one sheet that comes in the standard pack, it will last a good while. Again, I wouldn't use it for more than a week with the oils or the acrylic. I think that's a good rule of thumb, because if you get to the 2-week mark, you're gonna have, again, see, you got like crusty stuff in the corner, then you're gonna have to pick that out and it might not close right. Oh, but look at that, it just peels right off. So that's not even a problem. But I do highly recommend this. I didn't even like acrylic painting until I discovered this palette. And that's why I wanted to share this with you today, because acrylic painting can seem a bit intimidating because it dries so fast. So you have to make quicker decisions. It is pretty forgiving when you think about that you can just paint over it because it's going to dry in a few minutes. But you don't want your colors drying in your palette. You don't want to work so fast that you don't enjoy the painting process. So to be able to have wet acrylic paint all the time, you kind of get the best of both worlds, where your painting almost feels like oils because they're staying wet longer and you don't feel that pressure that acrylic sometimes can have. There we go. I just cleaned that off while we were talking. That was pretty easy. But then you can also, like I said, I will get some out of here and mix it on here and paint from here and just keep it wet with a mister. That way I kind of keep my palette clean for longer. That will definitely maximize the paint that you get from the tube, so you're not wasting paint. That's something that I've always struggled with. I don't want to waste paint, and I don't necessarily want to clean up after every time that I paint. Squirting this with the alcohol and scraping this off each time is enough for me, but having the paint already out and ready to go is so nice. And then you can just continually add paint to it until you're ready to just wash the whole sheet of paper that comes with it out. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it all the way to the end, I would love it if you consider to like and subscribe, or leave a comment of what kind of palette that you work with, if you like something, or if you have any other tips about using palettes, whether it's acrylic or oil. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.